Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor.
Yo, what's going on? It's Leon Slater, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the Wrestling Rewind. You get me?
This is Impact Wrestling superstar Cowboy James Storm.
This is Jeff Jarrett, the King of the Mountain.
I'm Tom Hannafin from TNA Wrestling. You're listening to the Wrestling Rewind.
And if you're not, sorry about your damn luck.
The Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello folks, it is Tuesday here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, or I might actually put this out on a Saturday, it depends. There's a lot of news happening at the moment, and depending on how I feel, I might just pop this out, and you're probably expecting a nerd show, but guess what, you're probably getting wrestling. My name is Darrow O'Connor, and you are listening to the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling. What a week it's been. Oh my god, such a crazy week that when Christopher came on, I forgot we were actually going to cover St. Valentine's Day Massacre. I did watch it, and it is one of my favourite pay-per-views of all time, but it's so busy, I left it out of the show plan. So, Christopher, thank you so much for being a professional out of the two of us.
Well, you know, I do what I can.
Always on track, man. I do appreciate it. But look, holy heck, what a week it's been. And it's not stopping. It's like, look, obviously we're not talking about what's going on in the world. That's a whole other thing. But as far as wrestling goes, Elimination Chamber, the fallout of that, possibly Cody Rhodes getting back into the main event after we thought he was free, Jade Cargill being revealed to be actually quite an awful person backstage if you've been reading the sheets. A really good Raw. There's just so much. Christopher, let's start with what we have to start with. The Elimination Chamber 2026. Look, not a very good show. Not a bad show. Some people are like, it's the worst PLE ever. Let's not go crazy. But in my opinion, yeah, I mean, come on. I can point to loads of them. But what I will say off the bat here, look, the CM Punk Finn match was actually fantastic. But what this felt like, before I bring you in, this was like ECW's December to Dismember. And what I mean by that is, when you abuse the Elimination Chamber gimmick, you end up with stuff like this. There is no reason for the Elimination Chamber to be a yearly thing, and I do not believe it should be in February. It cheapens it. It ends up with this weird situation where you have guys just in the Elimination Chamber for no real reason. I'm very, very sick of this. We have this problem. We had this problem a couple of years ago with the Hell in a Cell match, where it became, instead of Hell in a Cell, it became match in a cage. And I think now we're getting the same problem with the Elimination Chamber. What did you think before we get into it?
Yeah, this show, I mean, the Finn Balor CM Punk match I thought was the match of the night. The people that I would have liked to win the chamber matches did not. That horrible reveal at the end of the chamber match of who the masked man was, I was just sitting there going, really? That doesn't, okay, cool, whatever. Finally, it's over. We can move on from that now.
It's over, it's over until they decide to do more masked men. I don't know what it is. It's like, pick something else.
Yeah.
Like, sure, okay, let's start there. Surely if, by the logic of kayfabe, some lad walks through security covered in like a hoodie and black man, they're going to be stopped, right?
Yep.
It just doesn't make any sense. It's like, how are they getting through security? You would be on the lookout for these guys, you know? It's just so goofy. And then also, what I don't like about this particular one that they ran this time, they kind of hung that it was like fans doing it. Now look, you're a wrestler, I'm not, right? How do you feel about this let's jump the guardrail thing? To me, that just encourages fans actually doing that.
And I've seen a fan do it at a Raw back when Seth versus Finn Balor for SummerSlam that year for the inaugural Universal title. A dude walked right by me. I'm like, oh, it's just part of the show. Didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
Security stopped him. He legit was not a part of it. And I knew a guy that worked at the American Bank Center, and he said, "Oh yeah, that security person that was there that let him pass didn't know that they weren't supposed to go. They were fired like promptly."
Yeah, but see, you can understand there, but you can't understand it now. Now it's like, hey, look, you're telling people that this is okay.
Yeah, I agree. And it kind of cheapens it, when you have a masked man come out every other week, it just takes it away. And the fact that over half the division is now injured, including Paul Heyman after what happened on Raw, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But over half the division is on the shelf. So the reveal was kind of like, okay, not surprised by who it was. I was hoping it'd be somebody else, but it is what it is. And can we move on from this now? But apparently not.
Yeah, it's just, and I know I've seen it on several places, and it's kind of cliche now to say, but I do genuinely mean it. It's one of the worst builds for a WrestleMania that I can think of in some time, and that, folks, is saying something. I think we all remember the really dark days of like WrestleMania 25 and a lot of the 30s, but it's just like there's no. The only thing that I think I have, and we will get into it when we're kind of breaking it down, is more just like, please God, not Cody. Do not put him in the main event. And I think that's just what a lot of people, not everybody, of course, but like the vast majority online is like, we do not want him in the main event. And that's kind of the only real storyline that's going into WrestleMania now, is like, not Cody Rhodes. Which leads to something very interesting. If he does win, they really put themselves in a bad situation. But what's interesting here is like there are different reports that they are kind of scrambling to try and find something to make this stick. And it's just like, how are you messing this up? It should just go from one to another. The Royal Rumble sets up most of your storylines, which they didn't do. Like, this is what we were talking about. When the Royal Rumble failed, we weren't just been like, oh, it was a bad pay-per-view. It actually messed up their road to WrestleMania. And now they're trying to scramble to get something together, and there's just nothing sticking. So let's get into it, right? So we had, obviously, 4 matches, as you do. We'll start with the good. AJ Lee defeated Becky in a very, very fun match. I like seeing AJ Lee. I'm glad they're not using her too much. They're not, like, cheapening her appearance. Obviously Becky had to lose to set up probably a rematch for WrestleMania, but look, it was a good match. I didn't think there was any real kind of issue with it, and the placement of it after the women's chamber I thought was very clever. What do you think of this match?
I think Jessica Carr should be fired because that turnbuckle, she stopped Becky from throwing AJ into it, but didn't stop the reverse of that. I don't know. As a Becky fan, I was disappointed, but I understand that she can't keep it forever. I get that. But I still think that AJ wasn't quite ready. There was a couple of spots that I'm like, ooh, no, that's no. She looked like she wasn't ready. And again, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I feel like this is too little too late.
Yeah.
They should have done this right after WrestlePalooza.
See, this is it, man. They need something. And I think this is like a in case of emergency, break glass and bring out AJ Lee. Like the build we got, as you said, was like a year ago for this. Yeah. It's not long-term storytelling. It's just being late.
And not just that, but AJ was gone. Like she was just she showed up, she got the pop, they had the mixed tag team, and then she was gone. Like, where did she go? Oh, she's doing a promotion for her comic. Okay, that's cool. Then why do we bring her back now? This could have waited until right before the Rumble. They could have delayed it a couple of months, but and it would have made more sense at that point to, instead of she shows up and then disappears and then comes back and then automatically, oh, I get a title shot again for the Intercontinental Championship against Becky. Like, what have you done to deserve it? You've been gone for a decade. You've done nothing to earn that shot.
She does have 2 wins. She does have 2 wins over Becky, and they did explain that, but it rings kind of hollow because it's like, again, where have you been? What have you done since then? Yep. But it's this kind of thing where, like, they knew this would draw money. They know they need a match for WrestleMania, and we will get a return match. You know, like AJ came out on Raw and was like, look, she's going to be a fighting champion. So what we could get here is we could either get Becky coming out and challenge her for a rematch at WrestleMania, or you get a big pop, you bring someone like a big star back and you have like a dream match. WWE are in a bad place right now, and creatively they're in the ditch. That's where they are.
I can see why the Road Dogg left.
Yeah, oh yeah, well that's it. So anyone that doesn't know, the Road Dogg is finished with WWE creatively. He was like lead writer on Raw, SmackDown. No, he was lead writer on Raw. He was lead writer on SmackDown back in 2016. But yeah, like when you have this kind of stuff, it just seems to go from they have a sure thing, completely drop the ball. And this Becky Lynch, AJ Lee thing, yeah, look, I would have rather had this last year. I would have rather this been at the Rumble, because then it could have like properly fed through. We could have had 3 months build that made sense instead of like, again, break glass, put in thing. It's very similar to what WWE would do, even under Vince, where they'd be like, in case of emergency, break glass, bring out The Undertaker and have him like near the end, have him go against Shane. Why? Because, you know, it's just, they do it, but it just rings really hollow now at this point. So I agree with you.
That comes down to another point, though, is that they don't have the big stars, the older stars like they used to. They need to quit depending on them so much. They need to bring up the younger talent, because there's a lot of young talent that's coming up, but they keep giving the older people, and by older I mean in their 30s and have had the title more than once or twice. Mm-hmm. They keep giving them chances, and it's like, when is this going to stop? Mm-hmm. I mean, well, look, I was okay with Randy winning. I was like, you know what, I'm okay with that, because if he beats Drew, I've been saying this for months, if Drew beats Randy Orton in any title match, it helps solidify his spot as the champion. Mm-hmm. Now we got Cody going, well, I know I didn't have a rematch, but Kickoff Out 2 did this and Drew did that. I want my title shot. Like, oh, just go away.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And look, we will get into that in time. But I think it also feeds into the problem with the women's match, right? It's not just with the men. It's also like very much with the women. Rhea Ripley did not need to win this match. So obviously we're talking about the first chamber match. Rhea Ripley, Tiffany Stratton, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Kia James, and Raquel Rodriguez, right? There was no reason for Rhea to win. I know why she won, because she's a superstar. She is great. But at the same time, her going for a women's title match at WrestleMania, why? She doesn't need it. You know, it's like, no one's going to sit there and go, oh, Rhea Ripley, she's a jobber. It's like, no, she's not, you know? So when she goes against Jade Cargill, I get it. It's like they probably want to get the belt off Jade for reasons that have come out. Again, if you think I'm making that up, apparently she has like X-Pac heat backstage. So they want to have that big moment where Rhea rips the belt away from Jade, and it's believable. However, the flip side of that is there were women in this match who actually needed a little bit more, you know, who's more in the future of it. And Raquel is one of those where she's a big star as well. But there is an argument where it's like they're not ready yet. And that is true. Raquel, Kiana James, they're not ready for the bright lights of WrestleMania and winning belts. However, it comes back to your problem. It comes back to your point. That's WWE's problem. They relied on older stars or established stars for far too long. And now they're left with, right, either we take a risk and risk them not being ready, or we bring someone back and risk them not being ready, or going with the safe option. And it's, they've nobody to blame but themselves. Now look, again, I am happy that Rhea won, but her winning and taking the belt off Jade needs to be done. That belt has to come off her. Holy hell. I think she's defended it twice or something. It's so silly.
And I do have a counterpoint to that, because everybody in that match, I think Rhea is really good at making people look really good, even though they're not as good as they should be. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking right at Jade when I say that. Mm-hmm. Rhea winning the Elimination Chamber match makes sense, mm-hmm. because she can make Jade look like $1 million, take the title off of her, And granted, despite the real heat in the back, people that have heat against each other tend to have the best chemistry. And if you don't believe me, look at CM Punk and Seth Rollins. They always put on a banger of a match, even though they quote unquote hate each other. But after thinking about it, I'm like, I wanted Raquel to win, but again, and another thing too, Rhea needs a reset because she's been on Raw most of her career. That she needs to go to SmackDown and get more. They kind of hit the Control, Delete, Redo, Reboot over on SmackDown and do what she does, and she'll be with Damian Priest, and those two work well together too. So I see this as a blessing in disguise. It's like, okay, fine, it is what it is. I may not be happy, but it makes the most sense now. After hindsight being 2020, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Okay, cool. I'm okay with it. I'm not going to complain about it too much.
Yeah, no, and again, that makes sense. Like, they do need a safe pair of hands. But again, it comes back to, you shouldn't have someone with the title who you need to make sure looks good, and then it is someone that has already had the belt and doesn't need it to begin with. So it's just like this constant problem that WWE are running into. Now, look, we can give stuff to AEW too. Their world champion now is... Who cares, right? It's the same set of guys doing the same thing, but it's a very easy thing for wrestling companies to do. Get the pop, safe pair of hands, but you need to start building for the future, and none of these companies have really done it. TNA are doing it, but that's a whole other issue. We'll get into that in a little bit. Going back to CM Punk versus Finn Balor, look, a phenomenal match. Again, CM Punk, yeah. But yeah, Darry, you just said that CM Punk is old. No, you said that going on established stars. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But that is the plot of this, and leading into WrestleMania where Punk left, he's the older star. And I did really like the Roman Reigns promo battle that they had. It was really good. We will get into that. But like, Punk and Finn Balor put on 20 minutes of a fantastic match. It was let down a little bit by the end. The air, obviously, as the weeks go on, I'm getting less and less confident that Punk and Reigns will have Finn Balor inserted. But I think it will be Balor's going to have some match at WrestleMania that will be a showcase match. That's probably for sure. Who it's against, we don't know because of what happened on Raw. What did you think of this one?
Again, I thought it was a great match. I was glad that the Judgment Day didn't throw their 2 cents in, although for what I would have liked to have seen Finn Balor inserted into a triple threat with the two, Roman Reigns and CM Punk. It was like, okay, fine. Punk's going to win clean. The exchange at the end where they shake hands, very babyface thing to do for Finn, which of course caused some chaos with the Judgment Day in the back. We saw that on Raw. That was a great match. I mean, arguably the match of the night. It wasn't a 5-star match by any means, but definitely. But then again, these two men together work really well together, and it was a clean, well done match. No disqualifications, no interferences. It's just two dudes going out there and doing what they do, and it was a fun match to watch. And I would love to watch it again because it was that good.
I think the Belfast match was better, but obviously, like, this was still very, very good. I agree. Match of the night by a country mile, and it just shows you that, like, having the stipulation thing really does pay-per-views no favors. Like, honestly, I mean, you'd think they would have learned their lesson from Hell in a Cell, but they just haven't. Like, strapping yourself to these pay-per-views, it limits it. Like, Punk should have defended in the Elimination Chamber. There were loads of people there. You could have had him square off with different members of Division who weren't injured, and that list is getting smaller and smaller. You could have had him in there with Balor. You could have had some tension there with Judgment Day. But no, they had to have this singles match because the Elimination Chamber was forced together with, again, look, when we talk about it, which we're going to, Randy Orton winning was a surprise, but not for the reasons that we thought. So we had Randy Orton defeating LA Knight, Rhodes, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and Logan Paul. 25 minutes. I'll be honest with you. I went to bed. I went to bed because I'm like, Cody's going to win. It doesn't matter, right? I went to bed. It was like 3 a.m. and I was like, I'm not staying up to watch Cody Rhodes win. The next day, I saw that he didn't win. I said, all right, I'll watch it. I watched it. I was like, okay, the match was still a complete waste of time until the last 5 minutes, which had that stupid mask thing, and then it revealed it was Seth Rollins, which we all knew it was Seth Rollins. Like, I mean, come on,
we all knew.
We all knew. Like, it wasn't even like a cool twist or something. It was like, okay, yeah. I mean, he comes out of the crowd and does a curb stomp. Who else is it going to be? You know. So look, with that being said, Christopher, this match, what did you think about it? Because you watched it live. Again, I went to bed.
Yeah. And I know I'd said this on my podcast. I had my picks to win it. I wanted LA Knight to win it. And I'm a firm believer now that the creative just does not like LA Knight, because he's had so many chances to get at least an opportunity for the title, and he doesn't get it. So I think he's upset somebody in the back. You know, maybe Triple H doesn't like him for whatever reason. But I did say on my podcast that anybody but Cody, and I'd be happy. And I got what I wanted. But again, Randy Orton going for number 15, I'm like, okay, we can see where this goes. But now, because Drew inserted himself into the match and interfered, and of course Seth Rollins inserted himself in the match and he interfered, now we have Drew versus Cody on SmackDown tonight in about half an hour, which I'll be watching that after we're done here. I'm just like, no. Why are we putting Cody back in the title picture again? I thought we were done with this.
Yeah.
But
it just
there it is.
It just, instead of coming away from the pay-per-view going, right, we have our main events, now we can kind of just get invested in it and they'll fill out the undercard. Instead of that, it's like, we still don't know what's happening, and everybody's praying that the match that they want to do doesn't happen. That's real bad. Like, that's real bad. Like, if it becomes a Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton thing, the match won't be good, right?
Nope.
Orton works up. They don't really work that well together. It'll be, if it's a main event, it's, again, I just won't watch it. I'll just be like, all right, I guess I got to bed early, you know? Or even if I was there, I'd just leave. I'd be like, oh, all right, I'll beat the crowd. You know, that's not what you should be thinking for your main event of WrestleMania. You know, it should be, I can't wait to see this one. You know, it's really, really damning. But look, again, I don't think it was the worst pay-per-view of all time. A lot of people saying a lot of really wild stuff on the internet. It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. It was very, very average. But again, it does lead into the problem. If you misuse the Elimination Chamber or any gimmick match, it just ends up losing any kind of impact. There should just be one. Even if the men and women's one are on different times, like, I don't see there's a reason that, other than, look, obviously logistics, but they could be like, right, the women's match is a one end of the year and the men's match are another end of the year. You know, it's some creativity, any creativity would be nice from WWE, from the creative team. If they could just do that, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, it's just too formulaic. And look, yeah, was I shocked that Cody didn't win? A little bit. But now he's going to win anyway. And it's just like, oh, okay, the same thing happened with extra steps. You know? It's like,
see, I'm hoping tonight on Raw that something happens in this match where Drew gets disqualified, or even Cody. Like, Fatu is going to interfere in some way because he feels like he should be in the picture too. Mm-hmm. So I think this is going to set up possibly a fatal 4-way, and that's what everybody keeps talking about. Randy, Cody, Drew, and Jacob Fatu. The 4 men that you think deserve it, but I don't know why, but I got a feeling that Sami Zayn's going to try to insert himself into that picture too. Ugh. God, I hope not. Stay in your lane, Daniel Bryan. Seriously.
Here's the thing though, right? If that happens, it just means that I get to go to bed early at WrestleMania at night one. So, you know, there is an upside, but yeah, that's bleak. But listen, it wasn't all bleak. Or, I mean, it was dependent on who you are. We found out who was in the coffin. And again, or in the box, it was a coffin. And look, it was the most obvious thing in the world. It was obviously going to be Danhausen. at a certain point because Chris Jericho wouldn't be in a coffin. And look, when the name was dropped, it was like, yes, of course, that's who it is. Now look, here's the problem, right? I love this debut. I thought it was hilarious. The new team music is brilliant. The kind of like spooky Scooby-Doo doo-wop bop thing is real fun. But my God, people did not know who Danhausen was. Now look, I know you're not an AEW fan, or your WWE is just what you watch. And I think that's the problem with like the actual introduction. Everybody else was like, who's Danhausen? To be fair, he's so niche and so weird and not really a wrestling gimmick at all that you would like. When he's standing next to the women, he looks like the same size as them. It was just like, he's not real. And Danhausen's thing, right? He's not really a wrestler. Danhausen should never wrestle. That's not what he does. But I think it failed out of the gate because they didn't really introduce him and he didn't have a time to do his weird stuff. Because, I mean, even if you're just there, you're watching it, you're going, right, I don't know how that is. But if you're there in the crowd, you're like, who the hell's that, right? But I think they saved it the next night where you actually got, like, the bit that won it for me is when he hands Aiden Pierce his demands. And it's just like, they were just brilliant. He goes, why is it wet? Oh yeah, I was fell in the toilet. You know, these are my Danhausen, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. You know, I think that will get over purely because of how funny he is and how it works and how weird it is, because that would, like, it never really worked in AEW because it's very one-note. If you're just like, right, now you got to wrestle, because that's all AEW is. It's like wrestling workhorse, that like work rate thing. WWE, if you're just weird enough, you'll get over, like R-Truth. He's just the new R-Truth, right? But in a weird kind of twist, and I really do like it. And here, in a couple of weeks, you'll probably see him there with R-Truth doing little segments, which would be brilliant. That's exactly what he's there for. But yeah, like it speaks volumes that the debut, while it just flopped completely, enough for people to boo it, which was unfair. And it was in Chicago. That's a very, very smarky crowd. You should know who Danhausen is, you know?
And not just that, but the Chicago crowd was not really sold on the show in general. They were very monotone the entire show. And I'm like, are we sure we're in Chicago? We're not in Milwaukee, are we? I mean, they're not too far from each other, but gee.
So look,
somebody brought up a good point about Danhausen debuting on WWE. I heard somebody had say, if he debuted on NXT, he would have gotten a bigger pop, because NXT fans tend to know all wrestling genres. I'm like, they're not wrong, because if people switch companies, like from AEW to NXT or TNA or whatever, they know who the person is. And I feel this is pretty spot on. If he debuted on NXT, it's like, okay, huge pop. But he made fun of himself going, I came out to thunderous applause and cheers. I'm like, you didn't, but that's funny that you actually made fun of yourself for it. So.
Yeah, but see, on that point, Christopher, right? That's true. But he doesn't need, like, okay, so there was some background on this. CM Punk apparently was the big push to get Danhausen in, because they are, like, incredibly good friends, right? Actually, if you want to see something funny as well, like Danhausen and Punk at a Comic-Con where he's just like buying them comics because they like had a deal. It's really, really funny. And it's just like, right, there obviously is that bit of nepotism, but I think having him show up on NXT, they already have Joe Hendry there, right? And Joe Hendry's amazing, right? Like, he genuinely is. But they have someone already doing that. And the difference is Joe Hendry can go in and work, and the lads in NXT can go and work. And that's why when some of the AEW guys come over, they're learning to work the WWE style. I do not believe that Danhausen needs to wrestle. He doesn't need to. In fact, that's the worst thing they could get him to do. So there's no real reason for him to bring him to NXT, because it's like, right, he doesn't need to know the WWE. What's the best way? He doesn't need to know how to sports entertain, right? That's what I'm getting at. That's what NXT is for, to teach people from the indies or the minor leagues to sports entertain, right? Danhausen doesn't need that. That's all he is. He's the most sports entertainment package you could possibly want. Like, for a small guy who shouldn't really be in wrestling, you know. But he is, and he's amazing. And now I think having him on Raw and kind of forcing people to like know him is a bit of a genius move, because it's like, it's so weird. And he was like, what's going on? And then they're just like, oh, that's hilarious. And that's how he gets over. So Danhausen, you know, never let him wrestle. Don't do that. But the way they're using him, where he's just kind of wandering around and just like with his Demandhausen and showing up on Smackdownhausen, it's brilliant. It's so stupid, but works so incredibly well. And the trick here is using them in small little doses where he's like just there. No, I disagree. If they had to put him on NXT, he would have got lost in the shuffle. He probably would have got a big pop, all right. But no, the world needs Danhausen on a major platform, just because how weird it is. And look, on Raw, when he was doing the whole curse thing, brilliant. I mean, that would get over. Like, people don't, as you said, you didn't know what it was.
No,
but people do.
No.
Now they will, and it will just get over huge, because this stuff works in WWE really, really well. So yeah, look, I'm going to stop talking because talk for a while. If as a non Danhausen, you know, you just want to wear of him. What was it like from beginning, and then how did he win you over?
When I saw the crate open up and I saw the casket, the first name that popped in my head was, is this Danhausen dude that I've been hearing about lately? Like, people were saying that he was in the crate, and he came out, did his thing, gave Michael Cole a set of teeth, and then just disappeared into the ring. The crowd was nowhere near as loud as they should have been. And I'm like, okay, cool. It is what it is. And then we see him on Raw with the list of demands. He wants the Triple H pointing picture. He wants to be in the Hall of Fame this year. He needs to have an assistant, his own camera guy, his face on the truck, just this entire shtick. And I'm rolling like, dude, this is funny. And then Judgment Day rolls up. And of course, he's like, hey, Dom, hey, Finn. And I don't remember your name. And of course, JD's like, I don't like this guy already. And then Dom being Dom, you know, kind of forces his hand and he gets cursed. I was like, oh no, is he losing the title tonight? And that's what we got. We got Dom losing because of the whole, I'm sure we'll talk about that here in a bit too, the whole JD and Finn, you know, not on the same page, but I'm on board. And the one thing I do want to see is I want to see R-Truth come out in the back and see Danhausen and go, Sting, what happened to you?
And that's the thing, you know, it opens up this whole new part of WWE that just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in NXT because Joe Hendry's there, but Joe Hendry isn't like a joke. You know, he has those little characters that kind of carry through, but he also will go in and put on a great match. You know, Danhausen it just gets over because he's so funny, you know, and it's so bizarre. Like, and I don't think, look, the fact that in 24 hours, everybody went from, oh my God, that Danhausen thing was terrible, to Danhausen's brilliant. It's like, there you go. But that wasn't because of WWE. Like, WWE actually did drop the ball and really messed that up. They should have really told people who he was, and the way to do it was weird little segments backstage, or, you know, or before the or something like that, rather than just, yeah, you know, Danhausen, it's him. Look at the teeth. Like, even Michael Cole didn't get what the teeth thing was, you know? Yeah. It's just like, that's so nuanced, you have to actually, like, dig into it. And I know, like, the smart marky crowd, like, is all over it and loves it. And look, again, like, yeah, I know who Danhausen is and I get the shtick, but when you're watching that, it just failed because they didn't explain what is going on. And I think that's the problem with WWE in general. It's like, unless you're a very talented performer, which Danhausen is, your stuff's not getting over, right? And that's kind of the problem. Like, it's just, you have to actually put the work in, and they're just not doing it. But yeah, love Danhausen. I think he's hilarious. I'm excited to see where it goes, because this thing could literally go to the moon. He's never winning a world title. That's never happened. No. He's never going top of the card. But, you know, he could pick up random singles titles for some reason and then just do weird things with them, or like a tag belt. You know, there's a lot of scope for Danhausen. It's just, it's you know what it feels like? Not something like the Boogeyman or that. It's a proper Attitude Era throwback where weird people like that would just be there. You know, just doing things like the Blue Meanie and Gold Dust and stuff. So actually, some people call them the modern Gold Dust, and I think that's really accurate, to be fair. But Gold Dust can wrestle. That's the difference. You know. Right. So let's move on a little bit from this. Obviously, we've kind of been dancing around it. The recap this week, again, like SmackDown and Raw. SmackDown was okay, building towards Elimination Chamber. But Raw really was like the big talking points coming out of Raw. Penta is your new IC champion. Obviously, after Dominic was cursed, Penta picked up the win. And look, it's great. One, it's great because it gets the belt off Dom. He can now focus on either getting it back or moving up, teasing more of that Judgment Day stuff. And also, it gives Penta now a run to actually have a title and see what happens. Good move, bad move?
Great move. This is long overdue, in my opinion. They should have done this months ago. Penta has proven time and time again, not just in WWE, but every promotion he's been in, that he can be a star. He can be somebody you can trust with the hardware. And I mean, the storyline was perfect for them to do it at this time, which is great. But again, I'm still on one of those going, they should have done this like 6 months ago.
And what do you think of the match? What do you think of the match itself?
Oh, it was a great match. It was, I know Dom is actually not horrible in the ring. He's actually pretty good. Penta made him look like $1 million on Monday. It was incredible to watch that match. Just everything that went down. Of course, the quote unquote outside interference. And I'm thinking, oh, great, here we go again. Dom's gonna win because that bell hammer, and obviously not. He and Penta ends up springboard assaulting both JD and Finn, and grabs the win. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah. No,
we should have had this match at the Chamber. I'm sorry, that's a Chamber level match.
But see, that's it. The confused booking of WWE having to have 2 Chamber matches for no reason compared to this, which was, Penta wasn't even there at Elimination Chamber, which is wild. But no, I think I 100% agree. You're spot on. Another thing as well, we talked a little bit about Roman Reigns and Punk. We'll get back to that. But what did you think of this LA Knight as the ambulance driver thing? Like, what are they doing with LA Knight? I know it's not much, but what's going on? It
reminded me of the Attitude Era a lot. Like, there was a lot of Attitude Era type moments on Raw that I'm like, okay, and it makes sense. The good guys finally getting one over on the bad guys. Like, I got him, yeah, and then drives off. I'm like, yeah, heck yeah. I'm all for that. I want. It doesn't have to be a particular character that does it. When you do stuff like that, where the bad guys are finally on their way out the door, and then you got a Stone Cold Steve Austin-like character who's driving the ambulance going, oh yeah, I'll make sure he's okay. I mean, rumor has it they're still driving around. So, I'm all for it. I mean, it definitely breaks the monotony of what the show should be, and it gives some laughs.
And finally, before we go back to the Attitude Era, Cody Rhodes is going against Orton tonight. Going to put you on the spot. Are they going to do the right thing and not have Cody win? And look, people are like, oh my God, Dara really doesn't like Cody. That's true. But no, I just think it's the worst possible outcome. Or are they going to do something creative? And I am going to put you on the spot, Christopher.
I would like them to do the right thing and do something creative. But the booking and the creative have been so lazy lately that I would not be surprised if Cody did win tonight. And we've talked about this before. We no longer have a John Cena problem. We now have a Cody problem.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Are we getting Super Cody at this point? I mean, I know he's playing Guile in Street Fighter, but are we going to get Super Cody where he just cannot lose?
Yeah.
Do the right thing, WWE. Please give me. I'd rather have the Fatal 4-Way than Randy versus Orton at this point.
Now, here's the thing. Drew is going off to film Highlander, very, very soon, after WrestleMania. So, yeah, that fills me with a lot of dread because, why would you put the belt on someone who's going to be gone for a while? But look, we will see, and we'll obviously update next week. So look, we're going to hop in the time machine here, the time we have left. We're going back to St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Your House, February 14th, 1999. The one and only time that they've actually done this pay-per-view, which is silly. Oh. This is the pay-per-view you should do in February, WWE. Don't know why you don't do it. Really, really fun show. It's a weird show because some of the matches are not good. Some of them don't even really happen because we have like a no contest at one point in the actual like house show. But the actual matches that we do get, when they're good, they're really, really good. And it's very storyline heavy, but it builds up perfectly from the Royal Rumble into WrestleMania, and this is actually how you do your build. Even when the matches don't matter, they still kind of matter. So look, we're not going to go through all of them because I'm sure people are on pins and needles that want to hear our thoughts on Gold Dust versus Blue Dust. You know, or Big Boss Man versus Midian. I mean, come on, absolute Matt classic, right? No, the real story here, I think, it's 3 or 4 matches that absolutely should go out of the way, right? So I'll run through the card and then we'll go back to them. So as I said, a couple of dark matches. Most of them end up either by disqualification or no contest. Show opens up with Goldust versus Blue Dust. Goldust picking up the win. Bob Holly defeats Al Snow. Bossman defeats Midian. We have Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart defeating D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry. Val Venus defeats Ken Shamrock. The Corporation of China and Kane defeats D-Generation X, Triple H and X-Pac. Mankind defeats who's the champion, ends in the draw against The Rock in the last man standing match. And then we have Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating Vince McMahon in a steel cage match, where if Austin wins, he gets to go to WWE's WrestleMania and go for the championship. So look, a lot to talk about here, but I think you can see which matches we're not going to talk about. So look,
of course.
I do have to say, I love the hardcore title. It's one of my favourite belts. I like so much that I actually bought the replica because I love the belt so much. And I just think it has some of the most unique matches of this time period, of any time period before it went away. And, you know, some people say, look, I love the 24/7 rule. Great. But I think these matches around 1999 are really fun. Bob Holly, who was still trying to get away from being Sparky Plug, absolutely kills Al Snow. It's brilliant. But what do you think of this one?
This one is better than I thought I would be. And again, I hadn't seen this in a while, so I'm, trying to remember everything that goes down. The fact that they ended up in the bank of the Mississippi River, I was like, ew, gross.
Yeah, they do some gross stuff in these matches. Like, there's one later on in this year when they're fighting in the men's room, and urinal cakes get involved. I'm like, oh, that's
ew.
That's gross. I know they're having a shower afterwards, but still, I mean, that's gross. So yeah, they do some gross stuff around this time.
But I will say, when I think the hardcore division in the Attitude Era, I do think of Hardcore Holly and Al Snow. Definitely are the first 2 names that pop in my head.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're like the best of it, I think. Al Snow and Bob Holly have some of the best matches of the year. Big Boss Man would also be mixed in there later on. So yeah, definitely, like, if you're watching any pay-per-view from 1999, make it your business to watch the hardcore title matches, because they won't be the City 24/7 rule thing. That won't come in for another couple of years, but they will just have like brutal hardcore matches because, they had to get on the card. The ECW was still there, WCW was still there. It's one of the weird little highlights that, I'll be honest with you, I kind of miss this in modern WWE. Not the hardcore specific thing, but this belt where 2 guys who you don't expect to really do anything go out and deliver a match that you'd be like, on a card that has Mankind, The Rock, Austin, Triple H, Kane, etc. I'm like, here, make sure you watch Al Snow versus Bob Holly, right? That's what we're talking about. That's how strange the Attitude Era was, but also that you could actually get over. So absolutely do watch it. It's a really, really fun match. Next one that I need to talk about here is the Mankind Rock Last Man Standing match. This comes a month after the attempted murder of The Rock on Mankind, which, if you think I'm being harsh, I will not go back and watch the I Quit match, because he hits him 15 times in the head unprotected. Yeah. The older I get, the less I can watch that match. That is attempted murder. I am sorry. This match is a lot more fair. It's like, you know, more even-handed. No one gets handcuffed, and The Rock gets as good as he gives. Continues the storyline. It's 22 minutes. The Mankind and Rock feud needs to be studied because they have these 3 matches that get progressively more brutal, but still tell a really good story. It isn't as good as the hardcore. The I Quit match is let down by just how it crosses too many lines. The halftime heat match is let down by the weird camera angle at the end. This match is not really let down by a draw, but it kind of lets the air out of it because they don't really recover going forward. But as a match, Christopher, were you happy with this one or were you disappointed as well?
Oh no, this was. Yeah, I agree. The Rock Mankind feud should be studied. It's up there with Mankind and Undertaker feud that they had there for a while. Just Mick Foley is just superhuman. He just takes such punishment, and he wants more. He wants you to hit him even harder the next time. And wow, Mick Foley deserved to have that title for as long as he did. Mm-hmm. You know, just the way he put his body on the line. And I've taken a couple chair shots, never to the head, but to the back. And I can tell you from personal experience, depending on who's hitting you with said chair, they hurt a lot. They are real chairs. They're not special chairs. They are real steel chairs.
What about, so I'm curious. So 15 unprotected to the head?
No.
How?
No.
How?
No. Never. How? I better be getting paid my weight in gold twice over before I even think about doing something like that.
Yeah, it's insane. It's crazy. And I mean, like, even when you're watching, obviously this came out when I was a kid, like I was probably 8 years old. And you're like, oh, that's pretty, brutal, but you don't really think about it. And as I said, I think the last time I saw it was like 10 years ago when we did a commentary track. If I find it, I'll put it up on our feed. And I just never want to watch that match again. It's way too much. It's way too much. It really is. And then you watch the Beyond the Mat thing, and you're like, his kids were there, and it's like, come on. There's no need to try and kill a man in a work sport. It's way too much. With that though, you think the referee would have like called it? Would have been like, stop. Come on. But wrestling is strange. In a lot of ways, I'm glad the Attitude Era doesn't do stuff. We're not doing stuff that the Attitude Era did, because it's just way too much. But this match doesn't really have that. It is still brutal. It does still have one or two unprotected chair shots, but it's still a very, very good match. And the ending is pretty fun. I like the fact that neither one of them can really get up, and that's kind of it. It's awesome. The double chair shot thing at the end, very fun. It's a very, very fun way to end it. It actually makes sense.
And this was a month removed from when he won the title on Raw on January 5th of that year. This is a month removed from that.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Crazy run that Mankind actually had. And you think it's longer than it actually is, but it really wasn't. It was like a month. He would have another run after SummerSlam, because he'd pick up the win there. But yeah, Mankind, I think he only had the belt maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
That
sounds right.
That was it, yeah. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats Mr. McMahon, otherwise known as Vince McMahon, in a steel cage match. Now look, I remember seeing this as a kid. I didn't watch it live, but I remember the VHS cassette of it, and it would be the big black, it'd be the big black cage, and I was just like, for some reason the big black cage always, like, for me that's the one that has the love of it, right? I don't really like the blue cage that much. I know some people do. Actually, what's your opinion? Do you like the blue cage?
I do like the blue cage because it was in the arcade game WWF Superstars or whatever it was. They had the steel cage match in that game, and whenever they had a steel cage, it was always blue. So okay, whatever.
See, I like the black one a lot more, not only because it was in this, but also later on, WWE Rebellion would happen, and that was in England. And this is before WWE really started doing shows. They would do 2 shows a year. That would be Rebellion and Insurrection in Manchester or Liverpool, and or London. Sometimes they do it in London, but it mainly would just be Manchester that they would do it in. And The Rock and Triple H, Black Cage, just there's something special about it, because obviously every week you'd see the mesh cage, which fair enough. But there's just something about either the blue or the black cage where you're like, oh, this is serious, you know, something's actually going to happen here. And I don't know what it is. It's just the mesh cage, while I do like it and did like the aesthetic of it, that black cage just, it brings up a level of brutality that you're like, oh, you know, and it comes back to what I was saying. It's like the Elimination Chamber. The Elimination Chamber used to feel that way as well. And now we get it every year. It's just less is more. Spontaneity is where it's at. Having this match where everyone's like, oh my God, they're not only having a cage match, they're having the actual black cage. No, it's a whole different game. This match is really good. Obviously, Vince gets killed for like the majority of it. And then you have all shenanigans around the world. And it's like, what are they going to do? We have the debut of Paul White, otherwise known as the Big Show. Basically claws his way through the ring, which is a fun way to do it. Starts killing Austin and then picks him up and throws him through the cage. Panel swings open. Austin's able to win and have his match at WrestleMania 15.
Yeah. Wow. Oops.
No, but here's the thing though, right? You have to say it. That's creative. That is a creative way to get around that problem.
Not just that, but you have a debut of a big guy like Big Show who's out there for the first time and he makes a big oops. That's classic. Okay, cool. And the bump that Vince took from the cage to the announce table is stuff of legend. Just, I'm surprised he got up from that, because if that had been me, I'd have been like, you know, I'm done. I'm out. Got to go home. I'm out. That hurts. Everything hurts. I'm going home.
Oh, that's fair. But yeah, look, one of those matches, like one of those moments. The match itself, it's not great. I'll be honest with you, but it's Vince McMahon. He's like 55 at this point, and he's not a wrestler. Yeah. Vince. Oh, here's the thing: it's a month out from him winning the Rumble. So 1999 was a good year. He'd win the Rumble, right? Actually, outsmart Austin in lots of ways, and then would win the belt in the same year. Vince had a hell of a run in 1999.
Yeah, he did.
He really did. But yeah, like, this was a cool entrance for Paul White. It made him look like a monster, like quite literally. When you see a man claw himself out of the ring and then throw Austin around like he's a child.
Nothing. Yeah.
It's scary. You know, it is scary. But this event overall, funny enough, at this time it was actually given a 2.5 rating. So even then, people didn't like it. Yeah, some people didn't like it, but I wouldn't say it's that bad. Yeah, it's a very Attitude Era pay-per-view, for sure, but it has a lot of really good things as well. And, you know, again, it goes back to what we're saying. Yeah, you might have 4 matches that you'll watch, but given your bang for your buck here, it's a much more enjoyable show than Elimination Chamber. I'd give me this any day over Elimination Chamber.
And the buy rate for this show was actually pretty high. 450,000. That was 450,000, which is pretty high.
Wow.
For that time.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But hey, look, again, peak of the Attitude Era would tie in directly, would have like things that actually mattered to WrestleMania. Not only was the title on the line, but also like the main event really was on the line here. And then some matches that we'd have would tie into WrestleMania as well. And again, look, the hill I will die on gladly is that February pay-per-view should not be something that you can't work around. It shouldn't be something as rigid as the Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell, TLC, because you cannot be creative with it. This proves it. Like if this had been, I don't know, Kennel from Hell match where 2 matches have to be the Kennel from Hell, or even if it had to be like a cage match thing, it would have worked for one of these matches for sure, but then you'd have to have another one and take away from it. No, it's silly. A much more creative way to just have a strong pay-per-view that has gimmick matches for sure, but 4 is the storyline. And yeah, again, if you haven't seen the Mankind Rock feud, absolutely do. You're in for a good time. Bob Holly versus Al Snow, any hardcore match from this time period, absolutely great. And look, Austin versus Mankind, there's a reason why they beat WCW. It's built on the back of that feud, very legitimately.
Oh yeah, big time. And the poster for the show alone sells it.
Oh yeah,
it's Vince holding some roses that still have thorns, and there's blood all over his hand. I'm like, wow, okay, that speaks volumes by itself.
Man, I can still see that in the video store.
Nice.
You know, that was the cover of the VHS as well. So they don't make them like they used to. You know,
no, they don't. No, they don't.
They really don't. Like that's how you do a poster, WWE. Hopefully they will. Look, Raw seems to indicate that they're a bit more aware of how variety and creativity kind of can work. So let's see how it goes on. But folks, we have hit time. Thank you so much for checking us out. We do very much appreciate it. Is there anything you want to plug, sir, before we get out of here?
Yes, just search up the Jazz Zodiac podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube for the video. We will have a classic pay-per-view review of Spring Stampede 1994 coming later on this month in March. So give us a listen, like, subscribe, follow, and hit that bell notification.
Absolutely. We will leave them in the comments below. Please do go over to nerdtoknowmedia.com. If you're checking us out on Phoenix FM, go over to the website, follow us on YouTube, comment below. That's how you can get in touch with us. We will see you in the next one. Bye, folks.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.